No one really wants to admit that they are lonely, but there are millions of people out there who are. It's an emotion we've all felt from time to time. I'm Femi OK, you're in the stream.
But what impact is that having on our bodies and society? Technology and services are being used more than ever before to fill the gap that loneliness often creates, but is that enough to fight the feeling? I'm Malika Bilal.
Loneliness has inspired some of the world's greatest music, poetry, literature and art. But what does it do to our bodies? Recent research shows that some amount of loneliness may be genetic. Other studies have found that the toll it takes on the human body can be as devastating as obesity and also lead to early death. Psychologists have been raising the alarm bells now on just how pervasive it is in our society, despite the fact that we are always plugged in.
Lonely people are also increasingly turning to apps and other services to connect when they're feeling disconnected. There are now apps to meet friends and like-minded people, professional cuddlers for hire when maybe all you need is a hug, and Toyota just unveiled a robot whose artificial intelligence is designed to make human connections. And joining us today, Olivia June Poole, the founder of the friendship app you just saw, Hey Vina. Samantha Hess is a professional cuddler who you just saw in those photos.
Professor of psychology at Brigham Young University, Timothy Smith, studies loneliness and the impact it can have on our bodies. And Kira Newman is editor and web producer at Greater Good Science Centre in Toronto, Canada. Welcome, everybody. Samantha, when people ask you what you do, you tell them what?
I am a professional cuddler.
Who comes to you?
Our clients are 18 and over. We don't have an upper age limit. It's men and women, married and single, people who have gone through pretty severe trauma or are coming for self-care. It's pretty much everybody that runs into an instance where they might need a hug.
How did you decide that this was a service that anyone would even pay for?
When I decided I needed to pay for this. This was something I ran into after my divorce when I was 28 and realized I wasn't ready to date, but that I needed touch. And then I came across this article of the free hugs guy with his little sign, and he gets punked deluxe hugs for $2. And I'm like, oh, I would totally pay someone to hug me and make me feel loved right now. Where's the Starbucks for hugs?
Now, are people coming to you because they're upset or they're sad or what?
Honestly, there's so many reasons people come in, but what it really comes down to is that they feel disconnected. They feel like they're not understood, they're not seen, that they don't understand their sense of self-worth.
It's interesting. So we asked our audience what they thought of professional services like a cuddling service, what they think also of apps that help or they're supposed to help take away the loneliness. This is Maria. She says, it may not be as noble as a cure for cancer, but it is helpful and can be effective. She's on one side of the spectrum. This other tweet, though, is on the other end. This is Amir, who says, I find it very distasteful. I find it an epitome for human greed. It's ruining an empathy moment by putting a price on it. Olivia, do you want to weigh in here?
Well, so our app is a free platform for people to find someone like you or someone not like you, just anyone that you discover a mutual connection with. So at the end of the day, I've actually been a person who fundraised out there on the street and gave out free hugs for donation to cancer research. And it was actually really interesting to see who was excited about it and who was not. So I kind of relate to the whole free hugs or hugs for money donation experience. But I actually made like $100 an hour in donations walking around the city of San Francisco offering free hugs.
Olivia, it doesn't surprise me. I would hug you.
I mean, I'm a pretty, I did.
I'm surprised you didn't make more money.
But as far as our platform, you know, it's really important for us that it maintains a message of giving you access to ease of finding people like you, and that it maintains a free platform. You know, it is sometimes a little bit of a consideration that paying to find friends or connection is a little bit hard for people to justify in our minds yet as a society as a whole.
Tim, let me show you a little bit of the app that Olivia developed, and it's for women to find friendships with other women. Have a look here on my laptop here, and it's like a Tinder-like app, except that the only reason you're getting together is so that you can find somebody who's interested in what you like to do. So maybe you want to meet up for coffee or wine, or maybe both. And the idea is that somehow this app is helping you to connect. What do you make of this? What do you make of, there's a whole business around our isolation now as communities.
Well, the comments so far are just dead on. We all experience loneliness at one time or another in our lives. And we yearn for connection, and we'll do whatever it takes to have that connection. The internet has been a major benefit in terms of connecting people. It's also had some effects that have been unintended in terms of creating more distance and maybe even isolating people at times. But overall, our society is actually becoming more lonely. And so opportunities to connect with other people, the more the merrier.
So on the benefits versus the drawbacks, this is Jeremy. He says, I have Asperger's. I'm almost 30 and I never had close friends in high school or growing up. And he continues by saying, this condition makes it very hard to socialize. I spend most of my time alone, but the internet helps a lot. He admits, though, that it's still hard. Kira, I know that you moved around a lot and then finally settled in a place, and you also turned to the internet as one of your ways to cope. How did you find it in helping you? Did it help you?
Definitely. So I was traveling around the world for 5 years, and sometimes in time zones that were 12 hours away from some of the friends that I had made in the past. And basically the only way I could connect with them was to send them a Facebook message or have them comment on a photo that I shared, so that we were able to actually have some kind of interaction. Because if it were limited to in person, then all those friends that I had made in the past would have been completely far away from me.
Tim, is there...
So, Kira,
yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to ask, what helped you get through those 5 years? You're disconnected in many ways from everyone that you had known previously. You had the internet. What was most helpful for you during that time?
You know, I was really lucky because I was traveling with a partner, and so he was there during those 5 years, and I had that home base. And, in a lot of ways, I think that traveling is so distracting. I was moving every month. I had apartments to set up. I had new languages to learn. I had tourist attractions to visit, and that was sort of occupied my attention for a lot of the time. But now that I'm settled in a city in Toronto, and sort of the shiny new objects are not around anymore, now is really when I feel the loneliness of not having built up those social connections for the past half a decade.
Tim, what's actually happening in our bodies when we feel lonely? Is it a social situation, or is something happening in our brain?
We respond to it the same as physical pain. The same centers of our brain are activated, and so the pain of loneliness can be amazingly profound, as we all know. And so we yearn for that connection. It's deep. We are wired neurologically for connectivity. And so it didn't take too long for the internet to switch from this kind of business-oriented platform to a predominantly social platform. We are social creatures.
So there's a question here from Akash that I'll throw over to you, Tim. Akash says, does it affect at a subconscious level, or are the health effects visible? Can you spot someone and say they're lonely?
Sure. We are actually human beings. We read each other's body language amazingly well. And so even in a public place, when people are smiling, we can still detect when those smiles are genuine as opposed to kind of socially forced. We can detect that both at a subconscious and a conscious level. And so we've got both going on, both subconscious processes and conscious processes.
Samantha, in your experience as a professional cuddler, how many hours of cuddling have you done so far?
In the last 3 years, I've done well over 100,000 minutes of professional cuddling.
Can you spot somebody who's lonely, like Tim said?
Absolutely. it's super easy to spot somebody who feels disconnected from the people around them. All you have to do is read their nonverbal body language. I mean, all of us have that kind of built into us. We can get a hint as to what somebody is kind of feeling in that moment, and then we can verbally ask them for more information.
You sort of customize your service depending on what you know and the research you've done on a person, and there's a series of different kind of cuddles that you can give them. How did you work out what the range of cuddles should be? I mean, this is something that you've designed yourself. There's no template for this.
Absolutely. Right. When I started, nobody else was really doing this, and I kind of had to develop the program in the way that I saw most appropriate. I now have dealt with hundreds of clients with autism and social anxiety and all sorts of emotional struggles. And it's really lovely to be able to see people reconnect in a way that's really meaningful. And so I've developed this program where every moment is really well thought out and customized for each person. We have over 60 cuddle poses that we use to make sure there's something for every person.
So in that moment, presumably someone is not feeling lonely as they're being cuddled, but there's a question here from Rabal. She says, can a person still feel lonely even when he is not isolated and has companions? And is loneliness a typically emotional or mental issue? Kira, I know a little bit earlier you were saying that you were traveling with your partner, yet you still had feelings of loneliness. Can you delve into that a little bit for us?
Sure. In talking about my partner, I think that one thing that's important to recognize is that we're complicated people. We have all these different sides, and they can connect to people in different ways. So my partner, we connect in a certain way, and he connects with certain sides of me, but I have other interests and I have other aspects of my personality that I want to express to people. And that's why, having a diverse group of friends and friends that you meet in different contexts are so important. So I think that actually having a partner, in some ways you feel like that's enough and I don't have to socialize, and then you end up losing some of those social connections. And I think, we talk about this after people get married, they disappear, right?
So Olivia, what difference do you think Hey Vina is making to people's lives?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to those relationships. We all have so many different sides of us. It's so important to find people who relate to all different, interests and passions and points of view, and find that connection. And oftentimes our partner is not necessarily that everything. I think it's so important. I think studies actually have shown that relationships where a woman has a significant social network outside of her marriage tend to last longer. And that some of it is because of the differences between how men and women create intimacy in a physical and emotional way. And friendship for women is really all about emotional intimacy. And so if you're seeking emotional intimacy, it could be, about a book that you've read and a new point of view that you're exploring, or it could be exploring a new diet, or all these different things. And it's so important to have someone that you can talk to about that. And it's impossible to expect anyone to have just 100% of everything in line with you.
It's a summary here, Tim, of some of the research and studying that you've been doing. A headline on Science News says, loneliness and social isolation are just as much a threat to longevity as obesity. Some of these findings are pretty shocking. If you could tell us how big an impact loneliness can have on our health and how long we live, what would you say? What would be the analogy that you would make?
Well, great. That on average, people who are socially networked tend to live about 4 to 4.5 years longer than individuals who are socially isolated. The effects on health are phenomenal. It's one of the key predictors of longevity, right up there with smoking about 15 cigarettes a day. It's a major factor, stronger than, as you mentioned, obesity, high blood pressure, high levels of cholesterol, things that we're used to talking about when it comes to health. And social factors turn out to be even more important for our long life.
So people are watching this show, and a lot of them are pretty excited about it and about this topic. This is Mr. Taluhu. He says, I'm glued to my seat because of this topic on loneliness. But there are some others who want to flip this conversation on its head. So this is a tweet we got from Gopi. He says, loneliness in itself is not a disease, but escaping certainly is. People sadly want distractions continuously to avoid being lonely. So Tim, I want you to elaborate on the idea of it being a distraction, and maybe we need to embrace the loneliness. That's what a video commenter of ours told us. Have a look at this, and then let me know what you think.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam Tolman. I'm an opinion writer at the Montana Kaimin, based out of Missoula, Montana. I recently wrote an opinion piece entitled Loneliness is a Virtue, where I explain that one of the biggest issues of loneliness is feeling alienated for feeling lonely. I personally believe that loneliness is something that everybody goes through at one or more points of their lives, and thus shouldn't make someone feel as if the problem has been specifically tailored to them, but rather as a life experience, such as breaking up with a long-term partner or losing a significant other.
So your advice there, should we embrace the loneliness?
I don't know about embrace the loneliness. I think we'd be much better if we embraced each other and other people and reached out to other people.
Yes, check out my website.
But I think the point that is being made is that we shouldn't make more of loneliness than what it is. We all experience it. It's a normal human condition, and we shouldn't be alarmed when we're in that temporary phase. It's kind of an indicator that something isn't going quite right. And so then, just like any symptom, like guilt, we can use that to our gain, to our benefit, and then we can exert even greater efforts to connect with other people and thereby enjoy more permanent health long term, rather than embracing the loneliness.
So, Tim, if you were going to tell somebody today who's watching this, who feels lonely, one thing they can do to make that feeling go away, of to make them feel better, what would be the number one thing on your list?
Number one, to understand that it's normal. And number two, the way to overcome it is actually by leaning into the discomfort, by reaching out to other people. It turns out there are many lonely people all around us. And if we're all lonely, who's going to make the move first? Why not me? And so if I could just share a brief example, we have a woman in our neighborhood who has been a widow for over 30 years, and she's lived alone for an amazingly long amount of time. But she's constantly meeting the new neighbors, she's reaching out to other people, she's exerting herself, and naturally she's an introvert. It's not comfortable for her to do that, but she does. And because she does, everyone in the neighborhood absolutely loves her.
Tim, how does she do that though? If she's an introvert, how does she do that?
Just leaning into that.
Introvert doesn't mean that you're not social.
That's right.
Sorry to jump in here. Just because you're
Please, go
introverted
ahead.
doesn't mean you're not social. And also there's a really big difference between, being alone and being lonely. I think it's very important for us to recognize, when you're alone and you're starting to have that feeling of loneliness and, saying, am I okay with it? Am I actually connected to other people at different times? And then sometimes you can actually bring yourself out of that feeling of isolation when you start to think about all of the people that you have in your life that support you and are there for you. And another easy thing to do is, I think it's great to be vulnerable and actually reach out to people, but it can be scary to others when you're, like, hey, I'm lonely, hang out with me. That's not how you win friends. It's really important to just build on commonalities and actually start to have those hobbies and interests that you could actually share with others.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the app is so helpful, because, I was reading this book and they said, when you meet new people, you don't want to exude the air of desperation. And I think we all feel that way. We don't want to sort of reveal this great need that we have for connection. But, having an app that's women meeting women who are friends, you're all sort of here because you have the same goal and there's a shared understanding. And I think that eliminates a lot of the sort of uncertainty and hesitation.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Earlier, Olivia had mentioned something about women exhibiting their loneliness in different ways than men, and that's something that online people are picking up on. So this is Aisha. She says, I think the way the two sexes express feelings of isolation are different, mostly because society pressures men into acting tough and showing vulnerability, and females, on the other hand, find it easier to express their feelings. Tim, is there any truth to that?
Certainly there are general trends, but I just want to point out that the research overall actually hasn't found a difference in terms of the health effects. Men and women are equally positively influenced by having greater social connections.
Samantha, I'm a little cynical about cuddling for money. I want to show some of our audience some of the pictures that are on your website, and then you're very welcome to push back. So tell me about this position here. This is one of the official positions.
This is called the cinema. This is for people who want to watch a movie with their cuddle buddy. Of course, we're kind of gender neutral in Portland, so we wanted to make sure that we included pictures of men and men cuddling. That's very acceptable in any situation if people understand that it's not sexual.
How do you make that understanding clear that it's not sexual and that you are turning up and taking money, but actually it's not? It's intimate, but not intimate in a sexual way.
It's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. That's what it's based on. There is certainly an intimacy to it, but it's not sexual in any capacity. My clients are my family. My clients don't pay for my affection, they pay for my time. The only way that I can make this available for people as often as I do is to have it be a job, is to have it be in a retail space, to be able to go to people's homes, be able to connect to people one-on-one without the shame, judgment, and guilt. The way that a lot of people feel comfortable doing that is by providing something back to me. There has to be mutual benefit for everyone involved. Obviously, cuddling for both parties is wonderful, but when I cuddle professionally, I don't worry about my own wants or needs. I'm there for them only. Right. So what they're giving me is a financial ability to pay my rent. They're providing me this.
I see what you get out of it, but this feels to me, Tim, this is temporary. This isn't a full-time solution, is it?
Physical touch is a key component of relationships, and obviously we thrive and we benefit based on physical touch. As has already been mentioned, there are multiple aspects of social relationships. When all of those aspects are present, there's an even deeper connection, an even deeper benefit. We would all agree with that. Research does show that the more committed a relationship is, such as marriage, the more enduring health as well as mental health benefits that accrue from it.
Kira,
right. And my service works really hard to avoid codependency. We use this in a really productive way. It's getting people from point A to point B. It's not meant to be a long-term solution.
Sure. Kira, what was your eureka moment where you felt like, okay, new place, I've got it together. I don't have that pang of who are my friends? What am I going to do this weekend? When did you cross that threshold?
Oh, I don't think I've crossed that threshold, actually. I feel like right now I've planted the seeds of some good relationships, and I need to water them. I tell myself every week, one social engagement. I'm going to go meet a friend. I'm going to go dancing, which is something that I was going to bring up earlier in terms of a great activity where you do get some physical touch and you can become part of a community. That's something I do every week, is do some swing dancing. But it's a journey, and I am on the journey.
All right. Malika.
Because of your stories that you're all sharing, this is the response you're getting from people. This is Mr. Farah. He says, loving the program right now. You're doing a great job for people. And he tagged you there, Samantha, cuddle up to me. Let me know the app. I think we have. It's clear now. Another suggestion, though, from someone else. This is not Becky. She says, I had to tell my family that there are phone numbers you can call if you feel alone. They were shocked that it's available, but now they know.
All right, so Olivia and Samantha and Tim and Kira, we're taking you to our online post show. We're going to dig a little bit more deeper into loneliness to see what more you have to say. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you have to tweet us. And the handle is #AJStream, and you can be part of our conversation as well. Thanks so much for watching the stream today. We'll see you online. Take care, everybody. Hello again, we're discussing loneliness and how some tech and services are trying to bridge the disconnect between the way that we sometimes feel. We're going to get right back to that conversation with some questions from Melika.
So here's actually a statement we got from Munya. A couple people are talking about how age plays into this. So Munya says, as you grow older, real friends are fewer and loneliness grows because we then have less people that help us feel like we belong somewhere. So there is someone in our community who is trying to do something about that. We got a video comment from Chris Martin. Chris actually runs a youth group service out of the UK that connects people with counselors. It connects them through phone, text, different ways with peers so that they feel less of that loneliness. Have a listen to what he had to say.
Young people definitely face stigma around talking about loneliness, and it's a subject we consistently see on the mixed community. The causes of loneliness in young people are often to do with the transitions they face in their lives. Leaving home, going to college. Shyness and mental health issues can also be a factor. These feelings of sadness can be magnified for young people by social media, where friends and celebrities seem to have an amazing time they're not part of. Engaging with online communities like The Mix can be a great way to start building new relationships as a stepping stone to doing the same thing in the real world.
So Tim, he mentioned a lot of things there, but stigma is what jumped out at me. Why is there such a stigma on talking about this?
It seems like any human vulnerability will be stigmatized, but let's just be honest, we have it. And so the more we can kind of cut through that, I completely agree with what was shared on the video comment, that we do need to reach out, but then there's that barrier, there's that worry, there's that fear of rejection that's there. But what if each one of us is yearning for connection? And so why not have that thought be more powerful than the fear the next time we're feeling it? In other words, replace the fear with the facts. And the fact is we all want to connect. And so go ahead and take the leap.
And that's the interesting thing. I think that the more vulnerable you are in communicating, actually the closer you're going to connect with someone. If you're just sort of making small talk and not revealing anything about yourself, you're going to walk away from that interaction feeling lonely. So in order to alleviate it to some degree, you have to disclose things that are a bit uncomfortable.
Can you give us an example, Kira?
Sure. I mean, I have talked to some close friends about feeling lonely, and that was hard. But to hear them, one in particular who also just moved to a new city, say, yeah, I've had that experience. I'm trying to meet people and it's hard, and I feel your pain. Like, that empathy is so powerful.
Olivia, do you need to use your own app now? Are you like, I created an app, I'm no longer lonely, but I'm going to help other women out there?
Well, I think that you don't have to be lonely to want to meet new people. And I think that's very important, as you shouldn't always wait till you're absolutely starving to eat. You should, eat on a regular basis. It's important to constantly be fueling yourself with new people, new points of views, and building a network, so that way you don't find yourself suddenly in this position where everyone's moved away or gotten married or changed their life, and you're sitting there by yourself and saying, oh, how did I end up here? If you're constantly, fueling yourself with new people, you will always have a network to turn to. And I think it's very important. I still meet, I try to meet someone at least once a week on our app. For me, it's very important to always be building that network, whether it's, for finding connections for, when I'm traveling, or to, connect other people with resources. It's very important to have that. I mean, there's all these sayings that it's not your network or your net worth, or your network is your net worth, and it's not about who you know, it's about what you know, it's about who you know, if I know how to say any sayings correctly. But it's very important, I think, also when we look at vulnerability and saying, and how to build those relationships, it's so important to not just show up and say, oh my gosh, I'm so lonely, or look at all these poor me situations. It's about storytelling and saying, hey, this is this thing that happened to me. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Olivia, may I ask, is there any particular reason why you do your app just for women? And do you plan on expanding, like, maybe once the social norms change around that?
Well, because there's one called Tinder, that's why.
That's totally different.
the thing is like if you put men and women on a platform, then you immediately, biology will dictate that we'll turn it into a dating app, and that's totally fine. But it's something we wanted to be explicit that we were just for friends. Also, men and women, from a social psychological point of view, tend to make friends differently. Men tend to be very activity driven, whereas women are very emotional intimacy driven. And so for us, it was very important to design an experience particularly for women, and how those relationships are fostered. And as you mentioned, there is a little bit more of a stigma around masculinity and the vulnerability of saying, hey, I want to make friends, and a little bit of those challenges that I just don't think we're there yet globally for men. And I hear men all the time say, oh my gosh, I would totally love to use something like this. What are you going to allow men to have it? And I think this experience would just have to be designed very differently to reduce that stigma and allow men to, meet each other in a fun and interesting way.
Yeah. Guess, thank you so much for sharing so much of your life, and particularly that vulnerable side about how do you deal with loneliness, what is it, how do we cope? Malika.
So I'll end with these two tweets. Not Becky says, so the problem, in summation, really lies on the awareness programs. So we just need to let people know that help is out there. And I think you all already have, because we got this tweet from Mr. Tooley, who says the topic on loneliness was educating.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate you being part of the stream today. Take care.